I think when you get to the stage where you're having to create somebody to look after the customer, then you've lost your purpose of your business, really. And I think that would apply to any business, not just a bank. If you haven't got, a CEO or an MD of a particular division that puts the customer at the heart of what they do. So if I think of my own role, I believe I've got responsibility for the customers that I deal with and interact with. The day I have to think about recruiting somebody else to sit alongside me to pick that up, probably means our business isn't putting the customer at the centre of what they do. So I would probably push the question back to you that I think, this is all about, if you own the customer, you own what your business strategy is, and the customer's at the centre of your business strategy, the CEO, the managing director, whoever it is, has got that responsibility and should keep it.
Yeah, I agree as an overall responsibility, but in terms of the practicality of being the shepherd throughout everything that you're doing in terms of all your products and services, someone who is saying, yeah, but what about the customer, and actually practically riding herd, if you like, with the strategy. You can have overall accountability, but who has the day-to-day responsibility?
Well, I agree with Mark. I think actually it's, if you lose sight of your customers, then you haven't got a business anymore. I think if you create someone who looks after the customer and you've got someone who looks after the costs, welcome to the world of inherent conflict. And actually that's just pretty counterproductive. So I think actually you've got to have that, the guy who's the shepherd or the CEO, whatever you want to call it, of the organisation. So, he's got to think about the customer experience in all that he does. Now, it's not easy, because if you kind of add up the amount of time you spend with regulators and on compliance and on a whole bunch of other bits and pieces, it's quite easy to suddenly forget you're running a big branch network or a big corporate business, because you haven't really got time for that. But reality is you need to understand the experiences your customers are having, either through relationship managers or through your service centres or through your branch network, because fundamentally that tells you how your organisation is operating. And actually, as a CEO, it's the most important piece of information you have about how your organisation is operating. So I would never want to delegate it to a guy in a room somewhere.
I think in terms of how a customer actually faces the Interbank, and I think Steve's bank's the same, that interface is the relationship manager, and that relationship manager's role is to make the bank, whether it be Lloyds or Santander or whoever, work for the customer, as opposed to, I don't know if you're suggesting that you've just got individual products getting thrown at every customer from all angles, and that's not something that we'd want to certainly condone or go down that route.
So I agree with the other two commentators. I don't think adding another layer of management into a bank will help in customer service at all. But what I do think is important is that you have the right level of empowerment with the relationship manager that sits opposite the customer and can actually make a difference to issues like quality of service, how their speed of service, so through the organisation, how people listen to them. And I do think in the past 10 years, banks have become slightly less focused on making the relationship manager empowered to actually deliver to the customer on a reasonable time frame against a reasonable set of criteria. And if that needs sponsorship from above somewhere, then certainly I think that would be helpful to have relationship managers more empowered through sponsorship.
The danger if everyone agrees with everybody on the stage. So I do agree with that, and I do see. If you're going to have a relationship manager, what's the point if they're not actually looking out for the customer? And after all, the CEO is there to look after the needs of shareholders and the customers. So I worry about the desire to appoint people at board level responsible for customer. I suppose the one new point perhaps I'll bring is where this often comes up, and I've seen this over, I guess, the last 15, 20 years, where this has been a recurring theme, is we need to appoint somebody at board level at the customer because we are a silo organisation. I think it's less relevant at a wholesale level, but in retail banking, I can remember, and I've seen a number of times, we'll appoint a customer director because we want to be able to bundle products and services for our customers and treat the customers one, and we need somebody to balance the demands of different business units. And an example, and I can vividly remember this, would be, again, it's in retail, but so we want to provide better service and better pricing for customers who give us many products. So customers got a mortgage, so we'll give them a cheap loan. The trouble is the loan is a different business unit from the mortgage. So which business unit, which P&L is going to carry the cost of the cheaper loan? And those are the sorts of conversations that dog many organisations. But I think the fundamental is organisations, particularly in the current economy, that aren't focused on the customer, are probably in trouble.